What's up, everybody, and welcome to episode 4 of Coaches Elite. I'm Ryan Hinton, and today we have Jamie DeBenard, really good friend of mine. I'm really excited about this interview. Really been looking forward to it. Before we get started, please pause, go give me a 5-star review. You guys know what it's about. And check out our other interviews. This is episode 4. So I got so much to talk to you about, Jamie. I'm so excited. So this is Fit Body Fusion, right? I got so many stories to tell y'all. I'm going to just start out and let you just have the floor and tell us how you got started coaching. I mean, I know the story, but I love hearing it. And so just let everybody know how you got started. How did Fit Body Fusion get started?
So my history has been long in the industry, and that I really fell in love with bodybuilding way back when I was a teenager. And the very first bodybuilding women were coming out. Rachel McLish was Miss Olympia, and all this was going on, and it was so exciting. And I just followed the sport all my life. I started out powerlifting in high school and kind of started getting into bodybuilding, and then went corporate route and had kids and did all that kind of fun stuff, and didn't really come back and get serious about competing myself until my 30s, which was really cool. And having that opportunity to hit the Olympia stage at 40 and 41 and having that whole experience, it was just amazing in so many levels. And on the flip side, there were some health things that started to creep up that I started to realize that were not just me. They were a lot of other people that I competed with. And so I got really passionate, delved into a PhD in holistic nutrition, and started to really kind of understand better what was going on with my hormones and things like that. So all that rolled into me getting passionate about helping other people stay healthy, still be able to compete in a way. And for a while, I didn't know if you could have both. And then learning that you can have both was really exciting. So that's how that evolved. And so now I work with a lot of coaches, a lot of athletes, putting health first and still going out there and killing it. So.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. You inspire me. Olympia at 41, 42, huh?
Yeah, well, now I'm going to be 50, so.
Yeah. I'm looking forward. I got to make up for missing your mom's birthday. I'm so mad I missed that. So I got to make the 50th.
I know I couldn't believe you weren't there. So yeah, well, I don't know what my 50th birthday is going to look like now that we're in the middle of a pandemic, but we'll see.
We'll make it happen. I don't care. I'll come. And so tell me, Fit Body Fusion is structured a little differently than most popular names or teams. So tell us a little bit how your company is structured, how your coaches are structured and everything.
Well, I come from a little bit different background than a lot of the coaches that are out there in terms of, I was executive vice president of Fortune 50. We actually built a startup and sold to them. And then I went in as an executive for them. So when I thought about actually creating this business, I thought of it in terms of two things, in terms of business structure and also in terms of scale. So for me, I never wanted to lose quality because of quantity. So I didn't want to be coaching so many people personally I've only got 24 hours in a day. I can't be everything to all people. So I thought about, how do we scale this? How do we make it effective on a larger level? So very early on, I started developing coaches and really finding some phenomenal people. I mean, the best of the best, and really working with them to train them, to make sure that they have all the tools that they need. And so we've been able to grow, and I have coaches that have been with me for almost 10 years now.
Wow.
And then I have some newer coaches as well. So we're probably somewhere around 600 right now active, which is crazy to me in the middle of this pandemic, and 18 coaches. But we feel like a family. And that's the thing. It's because there's a lot of personal touch for each individual person. So I'm not just spreading myself so thin that everybody's just getting like a little tiny piece, little short one-word answers on check-ins or not hearing back. Like, those are not things that were ever okay to me. I wanted there to be the personal touch and the connection. So that's how we did it.
Awesome. So what are the strengths, your strengths, when someone gets to be coached by Jamie DeBenard, and then what are the strengths? What's the difference, coming to Fit Body Fusion than going to any other coaches?
So I would say my strengths and the strength of the team is there's a lot of empathy. I feel like we work very closely with the individual. So it's not, anybody can tell you, how many ounces of chicken to eat and how many reps of, bicep curls to do. But how do you get behind that person and make them feel motivated, make them feel supported? Right now we're going through a tough time. People are struggling. So to have that connection, to have that lifeline is really important. So I think that it does separate us a lot in terms of the connection that we have. Also, for me, it's experience. So nothing replaces doing it. And I've coached thousands of people. I've run into so many different challenges with different people, whether it's psychologically, physiologically. I mean, you just hit these roadblocks and you find solutions. And so you start to really build up your toolbox. You have lots of tools to work with. I think it's important as a coach to keep learning, to keep growing. And that's something we all do. All of our coaches, including myself, just finished a course called Adapt, which is a Rapport International, which we're big fans of, leadership course, where we all work together to talk about how to better adapt for ourselves and then ultimately to help our clients adapt. So it's, I really believe that what separates me as a coach and us as coaches is that we're going that extra mile to connect, to get to know our clients, to figure out how we can better serve them in all areas, not just, in getting on stage or in figuring out like what their next meal is going to be.
Right. So I've seen you do this, and, just so everyone is clear on this, you're not just bringing people on as coaches and just, release them you're putting them through training. You're sending them for personal development courses, leadership courses, right?
So, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, and I feel like that's really important. We really have a strong philosophy of inclusion. So, we have Olympians, we have pros, we have brand new people, we have lifestyle clients. So we kind of have run the gamut in terms of the types of people we coach, and different ones of my coaches do specialize in different areas. So I have certain coaches that do coach a lot of pro athletes, and it's a very different world, and you know that, and I know we're going to talk a little bit about that too, than kind of a brand new person, where they really are completely green and don't understand anything. So there's a different level of education that's happening. Or a lifestyle person who maybe they've exercised before, but they don't really know how to eat properly and things like that. So different things need to be focused on a different level. So I do have coaches that focus on specific areas and become very, very proficient in that. And with that said, we all share. So we have forums that we work together on, and people will, reach out and say, hey, has somebody run into this issue? I have a client right now, we're struggling, getting her over the hump on this. And people will chime in, hey, here's some tools that I found, and here's some different things that I use. And I feel like that allows us all to be better. Nobody's hoarding information or, this is, we come from a place of abundance. And you and I, have a great relationship because we both think this way too. It's not like, oh my gosh, we've got to hoard our clients because someone might take them from us. It's not like, it's, coming from a place of abundance. There's plenty of people out there that need help, either to get on stage or to get fit. There's plenty. There's no lack. So it's really more, what is my style? What is my philosophy? How do I implement that in a way that works for people? And if that doesn't work for somebody, maybe one of my other coaches works better, or maybe a coach that's not a Fit Body Fusion coach, and that's okay too. So we all have that mindset of coming from abundance, and it's okay to share information. You and I have long conversations about, our coaching philosophies and how we implement them. And it's not like, oh, don't tell anybody, how I do this.
Right.
So I think that makes a difference. We all grow in that way.
Give. Yeah. And I have to say, I started noticing as I started traveling when I first started coaching, and I'll get into that story in a second, is that, you know, for as a new coach, of course, I studied coaches, right? What are they doing? How are they doing it? Where are the gaps? What are they missing? Where are their strengths, right? And then I started noticing, I'm like, oh, they're talking, they're sitting together, they're hanging out. I'm like, these coaches talk. It's a community. Not all of them, though. Not every,
Right.
Unfortunately, they have the ones that are like, you stay over there, I'm gonna stay over here. You took my client, this and that whole foolishness, And so, the people that I respect are the ones that I see, sitting together, always talking. You and I have very long conversations every time. We go through the same struggles, same wins, and so you've been a really great friend and mentor to me, which is why I wanted to have you on here. And so let me ask you. I know you're really big on personal development. So, what are 2 books you would say have like really impacted your life?
So there's so many. So when I knew you were going to ask me this question, I'm like, oh my gosh, which 2 do I want to pick? So I'll share 2 that I've recently been into and that I share with my coaches. So I do share a lot of these with my coaches as well. One of the ones that I sent to my coaches is called The Go Giver. And if people haven't read it, it's a quick read. You can finish it in a day. It's just got some incredible lessons in it, coming from that place and kind of what I was talking about before of abundance and of, giving and providing value. And so as a business person and in my business and also in my personal relationships and my family relationships, coming from that place of, not what are you doing for me, but what can I give of myself? Things come back, in droves, when you just come strictly from the place of giving. So I really love that book. It's amazing. I definitely recommend it. And there's a series of them. I really love Brene Brown. She's amazing. I think so much of her research, of her philosophies, things like that. She's even got a Netflix special you can watch. But the book that I really love and I recommend and said to a lot of people is called Dare to Lead.
Okay.
And so that would be the other book. Yeah.
All right. Dare to Lead. Brene Brown?
Yes.
Okay. What would you attribute the reason behind most coaching failures? We'll go with coaching failures first.
Coaching failures. I would say the biggest problem is communication. So both ways. And I really encourage people when they come on board the team, like communicate with your coach. We're not mind readers. We don't have a crystal ball. If we don't know what's going on in your life or what's going on with your program, we can't help you find solutions. So sometimes I feel like people will struggle and they feel like they're treading water and they're frustrated and they don't speak up. So, as a coach, you are going to assume things are fine unless you hear otherwise. So I really encourage any athletes that are out there, talk to your coach, be open. On the other side of that, if your coach isn't interested in hearing that, I don't like the philosophy of do it because I said so. I believe that we're educators and that if somebody comes to me with a question or with feedback, it's my job to be able to address that. It's my job to be able to educate, inform. Here's why we're doing what we're doing. I can see where that was confusing. Here, let me explain to you, what we're doing, what our goals are. Let's make sure our goals are aligned, because our goals that maybe you had when we started together, maybe they've shifted a little bit based on what's going on in your life right now, obviously, especially right now.
Yeah.
The communication, let's make sure our goals are aligned. Let's make sure you understand why you're doing what you're doing. And that we're on board, and then let me know if you're struggling. Let me know if there's something that, little things like I see a lot of ladies now that have their kids at home and they're starting to kind of like take a little bite here and there,
Right.
So let's talk about how we keep from doing that, when our kids are eating or snacking or we're preparing meals, things like that. That's just one of a million examples. But let's come up with solutions for you rather than not telling me and I'm wondering why aren't things working like they're supposed to work. So I would say communication on both sides. I've heard a lot of people come to me and say their frustration with prior coaches is they would ask questions during their check-ins. Maybe they don't hear back for several days, and then when they do hear back, either their questions aren't addressed or they're just getting like a one-word answer. It's not really, giving them information. So on the coach's side, that's what I would say, or being willing to get on a call and say, let's have a conversation, because a lot can get lost sometimes in translation with messaging.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. The back and forth, a lot of times audio will knock it out, right? Really quick.
Right. You hear somebody's tone of voice. I mean, we read tones and thoughts into, one of the things that Brene Brown always talks about is the story I tell myself about this. And that's how our brains work. We're constantly telling ourselves stories about what we think the other person's thinking or what they're conveying, or, you know what I mean? And so we read into things so much. And sometimes a conversation where there's two ways and the person's going, well, I'm hearing you say this. Well, oh no, here's what I'm communicating to you. Oh, okay. Well, now I get it. So sometimes it really helps so much. And so many times when my coaches come to me with an issue, I'm like, get on the phone with them.
Yeah. Yeah. And the fun part for me is finding out that personality, right? Because we've probably all heard someone retell a story through text messages. Oh, well, she said it like this. Well, how she said it like that through text? How do you know that?
Right.
She was angry through text, Well, yeah.
When it could have been completely innocent.
They could have been laughing when they sent the text. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I want to talk a little bit about this. I want to shed some light on this, because this is for competitors, this podcast, and it's also for coaches, aspiring coaches, anyone who wants to be better or understand, this aspect, because we don't normally have a voice. Competitors have a voice, a big voice, right? Mm-hmm. And it speaks volumes, I think, who comes to Fit Body Fusion, right? Who hires you, but also who leaves and comes back, right? And so can you speak a little bit about, how you handle things when maybe a big name decides to join, maybe a big name decides to leave? When someone leaves and comes back, we've all dealt with these things, and unfortunately, I feel like some people handle it. I'm not going to say right or wrong, but differently than someone like you and I would. So, is there a certain protocol and how you handle situations like that? Because it's very specific.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really great question. I know you and I are very much on the same page. I mean, I've had people go to you, you've had people come to me, and you and I have sat there and cheered them on together at shows. Right. It's sometimes a person just needs a change. Mm-hmm. Sometimes somebody resonates with a different personality, a different environment. It's, to me, you've got to find the best fit for you. And when I was an athlete, I changed coaches, and I really adored each one of my coaches, and I learned something from every one of them. And I still have a great relationship with all of them. I mean, when I see them, it's a big hug. How are you doing? That kind of thing. I mean, I did make the effort to really talk to them prior to leaving and let them know how much I appreciated them and why, I wanted to try something different. And I think that's a really nice thing that competitors can do. If they are leaving a coach, give feedback. I mean, even negative feedback, like, hey, here's what I was missing from you. I had a client leave me, I don't know, 6 months or so ago, and she had worked with one of our lifestyle transformation coaches and then wanted to compete and wanted me to coach her. And since she was already internal, I took her, even though she was very, very new and very green. And after a period of time, she said, can I go back to my other coach? She's like, you kind of coach more at a higher level, and I don't understand sometimes what you're saying. And it was a lesson for me to take a step back and really think about my audience and make sure I'm breaking things down a little bit better, based on the person I'm talking to. Because a lot of the people I coach now are either pros or they're in the fitness industry, maybe they're coaches themselves. So I'm kind of speaking at a higher level. We're assuming they know what I'm talking about. So that was a great lesson for me. And I appreciated that so much. So, I really encourage that. Give feedback. Let us coaches know how we can improve, when we can improve. And hopefully not as you're walking out the door, hopefully before, but if you do decide to leave. So how do I handle it when that happens is really truly to encourage them, to support them, to wish them well, and really truly and genuinely. And like I said, there's abundance. They come, there's going to be people come and go, and there's going to be people that resonate well, and that don't, and that's okay too. Yeah. So that's pretty much it.
Yeah. So what you're saying is they don't need to go on Instagram and shout to the world that you you were the worst coach they ever had and you never did anything for them, right? Because we see
Right.
that,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, I think that's the interesting thing about that to me, though, is that I always it come back to the communication thing. Did you communicate that to them when you felt that way? Because sometimes that coach, again, like if you're just saying, "Oh, everything's fine" every week, that coach doesn't know that you need something. So it is important that you speak up for yourself and you let the coach know, "Hey, I need more from you. I need more encouragement from you. I need to have more communication with you." So I mean, I do think that, I'm not saying that I think there's two sides. So make sure that if you're not getting what you want, that there's communication there. And then if it still isn't resolved, then obviously, yes, go, move on and do whatever you've got to do. I just think it's a nice thing to do, to give feedback. And I handle that in all businesses.
Mm-hmm.
If I purchase something, if I use a service, I like coaching for myself. So anytime I take on something new, when I do yoga, I went through yoga teacher training, not because I was going to teach it. I wanted to learn it. When I've done different athletic things, I've gone in and worked with coaches, and I love coaches, and I give feedback, and that's my gift back, is to say, hey, here's what I loved about the experience. Here's what I think could have been better about this experience.
I love it. I love it. And what advice would you give a brand new competitor? Like, especially the ones that are looking for a coach. This is their first year competing, or maybe 2019 was their first year competing. There's so much, I keep hearing this, especially from the new people, is that there's so much information on Instagram. So, I mean, me personally, I don't like being sold. I do not like that. But there's so much selling, and selling works, and it's a huge industry. So can you give some advice to the newer people, or even just, so maybe they've been in it 5 years, but they're looking for guidance. They're looking for a coach and understanding. How does someone really find the right coach for them?
Yeah. Well, number one, if you're looking for a coach, make sure you talk to the person first. Have a conversation. I would definitely suggest have questions outlined that you want to make sure you're addressing on the call, so that when you do talk to that person, you make sure that you're getting all those things addressed. I would also suggest talking to other people that have worked for that coach, worked with that coach. Reach out to some people, and people are usually pretty nice. Like, even if you don't know them on Instagram and you were to write them and say, hey, I'm thinking about working with your coach so and so, can you tell me, like, what your experience has been with them? So I think getting those referrals from other people is great. And then make sure you talk to the coach and that the person's resonating with you. Like, you feel like there's a good, rapport, and there's a good energy that's going on there, and that you share the same philosophies. I did want to roll into, like, once you do choose your coach and your own prep, consistency is key. Doing 1 week on and 1 week you're not so good, and the next week, you're, and then going, why isn't it working? I mean, consistency is key. And then the other thing I always remind people is, when you have fun, keep reminding yourself, like, you're doing this because it's fun and it's your hobby and it's your passion. It's something you're enjoying doing. So when you get into that mindset of, oh, I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to do this, it's not fun anymore. I get to do this.
Right.
This is something I get to do. And having a coach, like, I get to have a coach. Like, I get to have somebody guiding me on this journey. It's not about being perfect. It's about being as consistent as possible, and then have freaking fun. It's just interesting to me when I see people, get into that mindset of, it's like drudgery. And I feel like the people who make it to that pro level and that continue to be successful are the people that are having fun, that love what they're doing, and that, for me, I stopped competing when it stopped being fun for me. It was more fun for me to coach other people and fuel their passion. But when I was competing, man, I was living for it. It was a blast. Yeah. So, I think that's really important.
Same. Yeah, that's really powerful. And so, for newer people, would you say that there's a misconception of what you're supposed to experience or what being a competitor is supposed to be like, or the even the financial part of it, being quote unquote successful, getting sponsored. How can you talk about, like, you've been sponsored, you have sponsored athletes. Can you really shed some light on that experience, on what it's really like, not the Instagram experience?
Oh, that's really tough. I mean, I know I think it's important to not do it for that reason. And I'm not saying that having sponsorships isn't great. And I mean, I have some, it's great, and I'm really selective, and I choose companies that I really would promote anyway,
Right.
because I love, you know. So I don't really do it for the sponsorship as much as I do it because I really love the company and I love promoting them, and I get to be part of what they're doing. You're not going to make a living with sponsorships. You're just not.
Thank
I mean,
you.
it can certainly help out. I mean, it might help with some supplements or some discounts on some supplements or workout gear, whatever it is. I don't think you want to come into this with that being the be all end all. If you want to be sponsored, be valuable to them. So, it's not about what they can do for you. It's what can you do for them. So if you really love a product that you're using, tell everybody about it. Do all the things you would do if you were sponsored. And, and then they'll notice you, or you can reach out and go, hey, I really believe in your product. Is there some way I might be able to, be part of your organization? And, a lot of times it's just they're giving you a discount, or maybe they give you a little bit of free product or whatever. It can't be your why.
No. Yeah. I'm still seeing that, with the growth in all the categories, especially, I started competing in 2013, and it's, there's new supplement companies every 6 months. There's new clothing companies every 6 months, right? The booths are getting bigger at the Olympia, at the Arnold, at the Expos. There's more and more companies now, growing overseas now. It's not just United States. So I just want to keep reiterating that, because newer people don't know. There's still that, like, oh, I want that lifestyle of this person. Oh, they're sponsored by so-and-so. I'm like, but a sponsorship could mean they get 35% off.
Right. It looks a lot more glamorous than it actually is.
And so, talking about newer people, can you give some advice on people who want to be coaches, aspiring coaches, someone who wants to start out, or they just started out coaching, or even someone who's been coaching and they feel like stuck?
So I truly believe that having a good mentor is key. If you're new, learn from people who have already been in your shoes. And there's a lot of great coaches out there that are willing to share information and mentor. I mean, like you and I talked about when I very first met you, you said, hey, I want to pick your brain about some things. And I was like, wow, that's really awesome. And you were like, coaches that I think a lot of and I admire, I want to learn from them. And I thought that was like I had so much respect for that with you. And, because that's my other thing, is continue to learn and grow. I mean, I'm learning and growing every day. I am not the be all end all. I don't know everything, and things are changing. So, to me, it is to be effective, I've got to keep my ear to the ground. I've got to keep learning and growing. And that's both in terms of, the technical aspects of how to prep somebody and all that kind of stuff, but also just what's going on in the organization. We've had a lot of changes recently. We've had shows moving around. We have things being canceled. We have, so if I'm working with the pro athlete, we've got to keep communicating, like, what's the, changes to the Olympia qualifications. We just had a date that moved in the Olympias. So there's a lot of things constantly going on. So I think, people don't get into a closed mindset that I already know everything. Stay open, keep learning, find mentors. And it might not even be a mentor that's not even in our industry. Right. For me, I go to a lot of different leadership things and self-development things. To me, there's mentorships that are even outside of our organization. So, so my suggestion is keep learning, keep growing, listen to your clients, be careful not to get ahead of yourself, take, one step at a time. I think, I do see sometimes people will do one show and now they're a competition coach. So that's what I mean by don't get ahead of yourself. Like, make sure you really understand and that you're not just like taking somebody else's program that you maybe got and then giving it out, because that doesn't work for everyone.
Right.
So there's a lot of learning and growth that needs to happen.
Yeah. You nailed it. All of that is very true. For some reason, maybe call it a gift. I don't mind asking anyone anything. And like, hey, I need help.
That's why you're doing this.
Yeah. And I just noted, like, some people, like, even in public, people are afraid to come up and talk to you because you may not know who they are. I'm the guy that's going to come up every time I see you and say, hey, Ryan Hinton, to finally say, I know who you are, because I'm going to speak to you. When I first started coaching, I remember all of y'all, every time I saw Kim Odo, I asked him questions. And I always knew what I was going to ask him when I saw him. Ingrid Romero, back in like 2015, I was asking Ingrid. I pulled her to the side at USA's and was like, how do you handle this? And she, she gave me some good insight to where I was like, okay, that's something I don't have to worry about. And actually, I still remember what I asked her. I was like, how do you, I was like, do you put people under contract so they don't give out your diet? She's like, Ryan, they're going to give it out anyway. She's like, I can't tell you how many people come and join the team and they show us what they've been doing and it's our plan that someone else gave them. So, but she's like, the value in that is this big, and you just said it, like, there is the technical aspects of getting someone in shape, right? But the power in understanding, like, I thought everyone knew when people don't know what shows to do, don't know what national shows to do, don't know the qualifications to turn pro or to even get nationally qualified.
Right.
And then when they turn pro, they're like, so which pro shows can I do to make it to the Olympia? They don't know.
Right.
And, how many shows have you won, or how many people turned pro or got top 5 or got great placings because they were in the right place at the right time because you knew where they needed to be.
Right.
Right. And I didn't realize how many coaches didn't understand that.
Right.
So like you said, keep your ear to the ground, stay connected, know what's going on, and have a mentor. Yeah, I love it. I love it. And
I love what you said. I just want to add to that because that's so great about the whole program thing, because we don't have anybody sign a, don't show your program, non-disclosure, whatever. But it was funny because a couple of my coaches asked me one time, they said, Jamie, I'm creating these great workouts for clients and they're posting the whole workout on their Instagram. And it wasn't anything malicious or anything. Like, they just were sharing. They just thought, oh, I love this program. It worked me so hard. I got really sore. They're sharing it. And they said, what do you think about that? And I'm like, you know what? There's only so many combinations of exercises that you can do. There's no magic to that. Right. Let them share it. And quite honestly, the more that you share, the more that people are interested in talking to you. And kind of the same thing with you and I. That's why we developed a great relationship, because we were willing to share information with each other, and we continue to do that. So I feel like it builds trust and relationship when you're able and willing to share. And there's no secrets to this. What works for one person is not going to work for everyone. So it's about programming for that particular person. So
yeah, there's a lot of value, especially when people see what we charge. Not everyone's going to see the value, and maybe you have to teach them that. But, I used the example before, P90X. They made millions of dollars, and everyone got the same workout with a little modification. And it worked for a lot of people. It worked. I'm going to say it worked for everyone. Let's say it worked for everyone. But knowing what to give to who, right? There's a lot there's the value. You can give out, whatever. And I don't have the structure you do, but I do. A lot of my athletes are coaches as well, and they have their own teams and their own brand and whatever. And they can contact me anytime, and I'll tell them what I think about whatever. But because they're going to do it anyway, right? So give. There's so much value in giving, and that's who I call mentors, the people that I see giving. I've never seen someone really successful deny me of any information that I asked,
Right.
And so I love that. I think that's what may be missing from like newer coaches, because it's intimidating for a newer coach in this industry and a new competitor. You've got no athletes, no social proof, know nothing. All you have is your name, so you've got to find something, and yeah, just ask questions. And so
Yeah, and we're approachable. I mean, we
right,
truly are. Like, come up and ask us questions if you're a new coach and you have a question. And like you said, like formulate questions you want answers to before you head to a show. And then when you see somebody you respect and you feel like is, go up and ask them and,
right.
say, hey, I'd love to introduce myself to you. I'm a new coach and I'm wondering, do you mind if I ask you a couple questions? And we're going to answer your questions. I mean, and if there's somebody that doesn't, maybe that's somebody you don't really want to know the answers from.
Yeah, they're not for you. Yeah, as simple as
Yeah.
that. As simple as that. And which is great why you have it set up the way you are, because you've had people that have gone through your program and loved it and became a coach, right? They were a good athlete and you guys work together. So that's possible for anyone, because you have male coaches, you have female coaches, and I just think it's an awesome thing. This may be not a difficult thing, but let's just talk about for a second, what can we expect? Are there going to be any surprises from Fit Body Fusion this year with everything, being moved back? We're going to have a great fall, right? Hopefully. The summer, what used to be our summer, is now going to be in the fall. So is there anything that you can tell us that's going to be something exciting you guys got going on? So any workshops, or you guys moved some things around, or what?
Well, we did. We had our big San Antonio seminar that was coming up right after the Masters Nationals weekend, and in July, that we've now moved to February, mainly because now once shows start again, there's so many shows piled on top of each other every weekend. And we, before the year started, had 52 shows that we had a presence at.
Wow.
So a lot of the shows now are 2, 3, and even 4 shows on one single day.
Right.
That we're still planning on having a presence at. So we'll have a coach, at least one coach on site at each of these and things like that. So it just, in terms of having seminars and things like that, it's a little bit tough to fit all of that in, especially because the pros that we're going to have there helping out the seminar are going to be competing to get their qualifications to get the Olympia and things like that. So no seminars for the rest of 2020, and then of course 2021. As far as like what we're planning for 2020 is kind of interesting, because I've been talking a lot to the promoters and things like that, and they're like, Jamie, we don't freaking know. We're all just staying as adaptable as possible. So really helping all of our athletes realize, hey, here's what we're working towards, and we know there's a possibility things can change. We only have control over what we have control over. So let's make sure we keep our mindset in a good place. So I feel like right now, having that grit to realize, hey, this is my lifestyle. I'll be doing it anyway. It's not about a show. And then the adaptability that, hey, if my show moves or is canceled. I had a bunch of pros that were getting ready to compete way back Governor's Cup in March that are still ready to go. Yeah. And I have had, a bunch of national athletes that are, they're ready. These girls look freaking amazing. And they've been holding on to conditioning since, they were going to do a warm up before Junior USA's in May. So, or before May. So anyway, so just kind of keeping that good attitude is really what we're focused on right now, more than anything else, because, with this virus, truly, we don't know what's going to happen. Once flu season hits again, we don't know. We don't know. The states aren't completely open yet. So we don't know for sure that even the shows on the schedule are going to happen. We still keep pushing forward and we stay focused, eye on the prize. I will say there are some athletes that, especially newer athletes that need to build more muscle, that we've been encouraging to take this time to build more muscle, because you don't want to be, you don't want to keep, that really lean level of conditioning over too long, because you're going to start losing the muscle and you're certainly not going to be gaining any. So take some time and build, and then, come back later. We'll all be back up. We'll all be, running. It's just, I feel like for the rest of 2020, for me, there's a lot of question marks still. And I think, even talking to the promoters, they're figuring out how are we gonna make this happen, even with social distancing.
Yeah.
I've been hoping that they would do some live streaming and do some things, that maybe they weren't live events if the live events are not able to go off just due to the social distancing issues. But I know there's there's trouble around doing all that, both from a technical perspective as well as from a financial perspective for the promoters. And everybody's doing the best they can to get as creative as they can to make these things happen. We're just in a very unusual time. So, from a coaching standpoint, keeping people living the lifestyle, staying on track, staying motivated, that's where we are. And then obviously if the shows go off, we're ready.
Yeah.
We're ready. We're hitting the stage.
Yeah. You have to. I think there's a lot of opportunity, as we said earlier, being in the right place at the right time, keeping your competitors fed. And, a lot of people are going to bow out if they haven't already. And they're going to be regretting come September, October, November. I tell you what, I do remember you telling me your two most recent Olympians, they were taking this year off anyway. Is that correct?
Yes.
So good for them. They're not missing all this chaos, right?
Right. Yeah. So that actually worked out fine because we were taking off the two of them, and I have one of my other pros, Ashlyn Brown, who's I think she's second or third in points right now. So she's like,
oh wow,
right there. You know how that is. I think you got some that are like, so you're like, we got to be ready.
Yeah.
Because we're right there. And then I've got, of course, some pros that are hoping to qualify. So it's nice now we have, it pushed out to October. So we have a little bit more time to do that. I'm still on the fence as to whether or not I think some of these July shows are going to be able to happen.
I know. I'm really eager to see really the turnouts of the national and the pro shows because, I'm talking to you and Casey at Boss Bodies, like I know we're sitting there and we're ready, but I'm wondering, the masses, are we going to have 45 bikini girls in a show or is it going to be more like 20? You
right.
know, how competitive is it going to be and, how bad does everyone want it? So I'm really excited about that.
It could go one way or the other. I mean, so people like with so much built up, like chomping at the bit to get on stage, it could either be a bunch or it could be people that have gone, hey, I haven't had access to a gym. I've been having to do, at-home workouts. I'd rather just wait till I have a little bit more time to be more prepared. So I feel like it could go either way. And it could just be that they're smaller numbers, but it's so much more competitive because the people that do show up are those people that are diehard,
lifestyle.
With it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm thinking about the grand scheme. I'm like, we've really only been shut down 2 months. If gyms are starting to open up this week, next week, we're fine for August, right? At least, unless you were completely off season. So it, like you said, it may not be that bad. I do want to take a second and tell the story though, our story of how we got connected, right? So. At North Americans, always trying to get a good seat, and I end up sitting next to this lady in the blue outfit. And I'll talk to a brick wall. So, and I think I'd maybe had only seen you one other time, I feel like. And so we just start talking, and, I don't even know what you told me you were from Baton Rouge, and I'm like, there's no way. You're a what? You're the FitBodyFusion lady? I knew FitBodyFusion. I didn't know Jamie. And I'm like, there's no way you're from my city and I don't know who you are. There's no way. But then come to find out you moved away at 18 after you graduated, 18, 19?
Yeah, 17, 18, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, that was like 1905. So, and so, yeah, I guess, your training business was built in California or West Coast, started out that West Coast, whatnot. And as we started talking, I told you, I used to work at Carrabba's. I was waiting tables when I started coaching and competing. And you said, oh, my mom loves Carrabba's. And then it's like a light bulb went off. And it turned out probably in 2013, I had just started waiting tables and I waited on a lady. And I guess she just started asking me like, oh, do you do anything? You look like you're fit. And I said, yeah, I'm going to compete this year. It was going to be my first show. Oh, do you know my daughter? She's a pro. And I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, she's an Olympian. I was like, but at the time, I'm not watching other categories. All I saw was men's physique. I didn't look at figure. She even showed me her pictures, and I'm like, nope, don't know who that is.
So cute. My
But
mom.
when you're new to the sport, you don't know anything. Even before I started
Yeah.
coaching bikini, I didn't even know any of the bikini pros. And then 5 years later, she's like, yeah, Fit Body Fusion. I'm like, well, I know the Instagram handle, Mr. Fit Body Fusion, but I don't know who that is. So, but that just shows how powerful your brand is, that how powerful branding is. And then, years later, I'm sitting next to you, and that's just an incredible story.
Yeah, we took a selfie and sent it to my mom, and my mom remembered it completely,
Yeah.
which was so cute.
Unbelievable. That was unbelievable story. That still blows my mind. You never know who you're talking to, right? And,
Some great coaches come out of Baton Rouge, though.
Apparently,
right?
Huh?
Or come out of Louisiana. You got Kim Odo too out of Louisiana.
That's right. Kim Odo, Cash Guidry. Cash was on our first episode as well. And yeah, it's just that really is it. What's that?
I was gonna say, which is interesting because I don't know that there's, in terms of how many competitors are in Louisiana itself, because you and I talked about how many coaches that are outside of,
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, I've heard numbers before. It's been years. The last numbers I heard that there were 300 NPC card holders in the whole state. I mean, we pretty much only have New Orleans, Baton Rouge, and then maybe a few in Shreveport, but it's not a lot. So, which is why I started having to travel. I knew it had to start locally, but I just, going to every show I could, sleeping on couches and floors to go to shows, when I couldn't afford it. And, yeah.
Well, and you know what, that's a really good point, kind of coming back to the new coaches, like go to shows, go to a lot of shows and travel and learn, because you won't learn what the judges are looking for unless you're there. What you see in pictures is not the same as when you're watching it in person. So you and I are always right there behind the judges looking at, and I mean, you and I can, for the most part, figure out exactly what's about to happen, because we do it so often. We know what they're looking for so well that, we can almost, okay, this person's getting ready to get moved here, and this person, and that's how you learn. Like, you've got to show up. And I mean, like you said, I mean, you spent the money to get to the shows whatever way you could until, you got to the point now where it's, but yeah, I mean, that's what I showed up. You got to show up.
Yeah. And that, like you said, that's part of staying connected, there's so many curveballs that could be thrown. And I'm not even talking about coaching someone's body, right? We can do that over the phone, right? But it's being there, understanding aspects, like you said, judging panels. I had to get used to the judging in Texas. I'm still salty about something that happened in 2017. I ran across the pictures the other day.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think there's a lot of value in that, going to the workshops in other – I went to the Mississippi workshops because I'm in Louisiana. I went to the Texas workshops, uprooted. Of course, I went to all the Louisiana ones, and there's a lot of power in that. And how much value would you put – now, I know you guys have a lot of presence at shows, and for the most – I mean, I see y'all everywhere. How much value would you put on having eyes on an athlete in person for competition?
Oh, it's so valuable. I mean, on so many different levels, being there for the athlete, first of all, keeps their cortisol levels low. It allows you to make any last minute changes you need to make. Competitors get a little cuckoo sometimes on show day and the day before. So, I mean, being able to kind of make sure, I mean, it's a lot of pressure that they're under. And so they're, so just being able to just be there with them is huge. And then what you said, being able to see them on stage, just seeing photos is not going to give you the complete answer. You might see photos and go, how did my client not do better? Or how did my, whatever. Well, you might not have seen some of the stuff that was happening in their transitions. For example, for ladies, sometimes, man, they hit that pose and it's perfect, but maybe in between the transitions, they're not holding the tummy in nice and tight. Things like that. And the judges see that. So you're not going to see that in the pictures. It's really important so that you can coach the entire presentation and understand why the judges are doing what they're doing. Yeah, I mean, obviously, that's why I'm at shows every weekend. I feel like it's so important. And the nice thing for us having multiple coaches is I can have, I might have people competing at 3 different shows one weekend, but I've got eyeballs on all of them, you know, and
Right.
my coach and I have done, like you and I have done, where we've sat together, had long discussions, and we know how to communicate. Okay, here's what I saw. Here's what needs to be worked on. I mean, obviously, you know, you and I both get a lot of feedback from the judges on our athletes. And we make sure that we're understanding like what they're seeing and what they like, what they don't like. But once you do that enough, you know,
Right.
you know, and I feel like sometimes judges will say certain things, and sometimes, you know, maybe they won't be direct, you know.
Right. Yep.
So
Yeah.
it's important to see it. It's important that you truly know what's going on if you want to make that athlete the best version of themselves that they possibly can be.
Yeah, and that's a great point for the audience to understand. Eventually, I will have judges on here, praying I can get Sandy on here, especially, you know, because I understand that's a very that's not an easy position to be in.
No.
Right? And obviously, there are things that they probably can't or shouldn't say that you need to see and understand as a coach. And
right.
that all goes part of what goes back to being connected and understanding everything, you know, because the diet and the cardio thing, that the training, that's like 1% of the equation. There's so much else that goes into. So you can be a guru, right, and have all these certifications in nutrition and training and suck as a coach because you're disconnected.
Right. And I can give you a perfect example of this. And, you know, this is where knowing what you're looking at and knowing the right questions to ask is so important. A lot of times an athlete will get the feedback, we want you a little tighter in the glutes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Bikini. Often, little tighter in the glutes. Sometimes, and because I know when I'm looking at it, I'll know what that judge means is they need more density, not less body fat.
Right.
So what the athlete is hearing, oh, I just need to lose a little more body fat. And at that point, you know, now they're too shredded and they maybe got striations, or they have, you know, their tie-ins are too deep or whatever. So, you know, a lot of times, especially if I'm at a show, I can get that feedback with the judge and say, is what you're looking for from this athlete, you want to see more development in the glutes so there's more depth? Or do you want to see them a little bit leaner? And I know the answer, but sometimes I'm asking just so the athlete can hear it.
Right.
Because I know what they're thinking. Oh, 2 more weeks, I can just work harder. No, we need to take some time off and build some more muscle back there is what they want. So
right.
This is where really understanding what you're looking at and understanding how to ask the right questions is really, really important.
Yeah. And look, they can go in 2 more weeks if they want to, right? Hey, if you want to do that, this is what I think. And hey, we may go, and that person that just beat you may not be there. And you may, and like we said earlier, I know for myself, and I'm sure for you too, especially at pro shows, but at even like pro qualifiers, we have some athletes that go in, and you're like, well, we just got to see what shows up in the class. You could get first or second, or you could get 10th or 11th. Mm-hmm. You know, at least because it's fresh on my mind, NPC Nationals just last year, Class H, if you were in Class H in Miami, that was probably in the last 5 years the most difficult class I've ever seen in my life. Unbelievable. Yeah. You know, and so if you were third call-outs, you probably looked insane. And, you know.
And that is the luck of the draw. I mean, there's certain things we can't control. I mean, sometimes you'll see a class and it's like, God, I can't even really pick a winner. There's nobody that really stands out to me. And then, like you said, you'll get another class where you're like, oh my God, these girls in second and third callouts could have beat the girl who just got her pro card in that other class.
Yeah.
Was a class. So, I mean, you got to just keep bringing your best. But if you're getting the feedback from the judges that, you know, you're ready, and your coach, who is a knowledgeable coach, says you're ready, and maybe you didn't hit it on that show, like you said, because it was just a really deep class, you got to just keep hitting it.
Yeah.
You know, you got to keep showing up. And I mean, it happened to me. When I was fighting for my pro card, man, I did every freaking national show for 2 years.
Wow.
And, you know, in the beginning, I wasn't placing so well. Then I was top 5, and I was kind of like 4th, 5th, all that kind of stuff. When I got my pro card, though, I never placed out of the top 5 as a pro from my very first show until my second Olympian. You know, And it's because I got so much better from having to do so many shows and work so hard and continue to refine and develop both my physique, but also my stage presence and everything else. So, obviously you and I have had that where we've put somebody at their first national show and they get their pro card. And then of course everybody else is like, I should get my pro card at my first show. It doesn't,
Yeah.
it's the day you showed up. It's how the class was. It was obviously that you're on point as well. But there's so many factors going on. So it is really important to keep a good mindset around it. Remember your why. Remember why you're doing it, because you're passionate about it. It's not just about the win. You want to keep developing. How do I, to me, the why is, how do I keep getting better? Is there anything I could do to keep getting better? And that's on so many different levels, especially for our ladies. It's a pageant too. It might be refining the look, and you and I have done this with, a lot of our pro athletes, finding that right look, because if everybody's body is amazing, which at pro shows, it's tough.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody just stands out, the energy they bring to the stage. They've got a really beautiful look about them, and it just, everything flows really nicely, so those are things that develop over time in practice.
Right. Getting out there and doing it, like you said, the experience, doing it, making mistakes, not being afraid to make mistakes. One of my mentors told me that last year. You're gonna make mistakes, so hurry up and make them. Don't be afraid to, we've all had those athletes that, they probably walk around their whole life looking like they're 3 weeks out, and then they hire you and they're like, okay, I want to do a show in 8 months. No, you need to get out there. You need to learn how to pose. You need to figure out what suit's gonna work for you. We need to find out your hair and makeup. Even like in other categories, posing, classic physique and all that stuff. Just do it, and then you get your bearings and you understand, it's the same process in the pros as an amateur, right? But that mindset is everything, right? That personal development.
Nothing can replace that feeling of adrenaline that hits you when you step on that stage. So no matter how much you've prepared, I promise you, when you get up on that stage, and I did a lot of shows before I made it to the Olympia. And when I got up there and I did prejudging, honestly, I cannot even tell you what I did. I don't think I did a full quarter turn. I was so nervous because there were so many more judges than I was used to. It was a different environment. We were in the expo and all this was going on. I couldn't prepare myself for what that was going to feel like. So you've got to do it. And then the second year I went to the Olympia, I felt fine because I had done it before. So like you said, you got to get out there and don't beat yourself up. It's, go, okay, I was nervous. The adrenaline hit me and, some stuff went out the window a little bit. How am I going to make sure that doesn't happen next time?
Right. Great. Hey, let's throw up the FitBodyFusion website. What's that look like? Is this the best way for someone to get started if they're interested?
Yeah, so the best way is go to the FitBodyFusion website. We've got all of our coaches and bios up there. So if you want to learn about the different coaches, and then there's an application. So that's really just so we can collect some information, make sure we're matching you with somebody that works. If you don't, you can request the coach you want, or you can allow us to match you with somebody that fits well with you. And then next step is a consultation. So first thing, we got to have a conversation and make sure that our program's a good fit for you and that the coach is a good fit for you. So we want to make sure that we understand what your goals are. We always want to evaluate how reasonable those are, and we'll talk about those over the phone. So like you said, if somebody's walking around 3 weeks out and wants to weigh 9, we talk about that. Or if somebody's opposite, if they're, they've got 50 pounds to lose and they want to get on stage in 10 weeks, we'll talk about that. How realistic are the goals and what's the plan to get you there? And so that, you have a better idea. So first thing, go on to the website, fill out the application and take it from there.
Okay. And there's how do you treat your Instagram? The FitBodyFusion Instagram page, is that separate from your... Yeah, there we go. FitBodyFusion. And so do you share any lifestyle testimonials on there or pictures, or is that mostly for competitors or Instagram? Okay.
Yeah, so there's definitely some lifestyle pictures on there. People sometimes will say, why don't you do more of the lifestyle transformation stuff? And for the biggest reason is just because a lot of times people don't want to post their pictures till they're done with their transformation. So you don't, even though there's a lot of people in process, not everybody's posting them yet. But yes, we do have a lot of transformations on there, and then some lifestyle people as well.
Sweet. Well, I'm really looking forward to seeing you. Normally, I would have seen you probably 7 times this year, but so yeah, we'll just have to keep waiting. Hopefully, like you said, what is it, July 11th? Is that yeah?
Yeah.
And I don't even know where I'm going that weekend. If they all happen, I don't even know which one I'm going to yet because
there's 3 pro shows that day.
I have I don't know. I think I think I might go to prejudging at one and fly out and go to another one. I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't booked travel yet, kind of just watching things and seeing what happens and kind of staying in touch with the promoters and what their plans are. And, I think everybody's just, we're going to do whatever it takes within the confines of what the state regulations will allow. So we'll see. I mean, I feel like they're feeling pretty positive. I'm still a little wait and see-ish, but we're ready either way.
Yeah, same. Well, thank you so much, Jamie. I know you've got a lot of important things you do, very demanding schedule, but making time for me and the people that need you and admire you, your athletes, your coaches. I really do appreciate you, and you know that. So I look forward to our next dinner.
I think the world of you. Yeah, I'll always make time for you. You're definitely one of the good guys out there, one of the great coaches, and just a great human being. So I think a lot of you, and so I appreciate you having me on too.
All right, girl. Well, we'll see you soon. Thank you so much.
That's
it, guys.